Shipping Wars was a pretty popular show in the early 2010s, but it turns out that it was actually surrounded by controversy. From strange dress code rules to cast member drama, some of the things that went on behind the scenes will leave you speechless. We all know that A&E has produced some very popular reality shows, like Shipping Wars and Storage Wars. Shipping Wars had a pretty simple concept. It followed a group of independent truckers as they bid on loads and transported them across the country. The lowest bidder claimed the transport, and the show would follow the trucker as they picked up the load, delivered it, and got paid. What was different about Shipping Wars was that the truckers transported large items that traditional carriers either could not or would not haul. This made the show super exciting, but that doesn't mean that there weren't any issues. Keep listening, I've got all the juicy details. First, let's address the obvious. Why did the show end and then come back a couple of years later? I mean, did something happen with the show's production and cast? For those of you who don't know, the first season of Shipping Wars aired in 2012, and the show ended in 2015 after 8 seasons. Except it didn't, because Shipping Wars then came back with its 9th season in 2021. But what happened between 2012 and 2015? Well, it turns out that there was a lot going on behind the scenes. First, one of the most memorable original cast members, Roy Garber, who was described by the makers of Shipping Wars as a jack of all trades, passed away in the middle of filming in 2014. This was a devastating loss, and it left a major void in Shipping Wars that was hard to fill, and it really impacted the whole show. But just when everyone thought that things couldn't get any more challenging, Chris Hanna and Robbie Welsh, two of the most popular shippers, seemingly went missing from the show. Known as the hotshot couple, the two made their first appearance on Shipping Wars in season 2, and they left after season 6. While the reasons for their departure were unknown at the time, it appears that Chris and Robbie were let go. I was honestly shocked by this, since they were among the most popular cast members. Their cryptic social media posts about waiting for a message from A&E and not being allowed to share much about what happened on the show proved that things didn't exactly end on a good note. And this is where it gets even crazier. The show tried to introduce some new cast members in the 7th season, but the issue was that Shipping Wars had pretty much lost its appeal without the original cast, so it just didn't really work. And I think the show wrapped up in 2015 for several reasons. First, the cast couldn't really maintain the tempo of the previous seasons, and we all know that the show wasn't getting as many views toward the end. In fact, A&E revealed that the show was getting 1 million views per episode, which may sound good, but it's not great compared to the 3 million views Shipping Wars was getting when it first premiered in 2012. So it just became clear that it was time for the show to end. Even though many people were disappointed to see the show go, it really had to happen. The magic of the earlier seasons had disappeared. But there's more. It wasn't just that people were missing the original cast members and the views weren't as good. Shipping Wars also had a fair share of controversies, and you'll never believe the truth about how the producers treated the original cast. Supposedly, these reality stars were at the beck and call of the show's producers. And what's truly shocking is that they had to wear the same outfits for days to make each episode look like a day's work, even though in reality, these episodes were filmed over a week. Honestly, that all sounds pretty insane, especially since the cast members' roles involved a lot of physical labor. So I can imagine that wearing the same clothes every day was just not a pleasant experience. But the show's producers didn't stop there. Allegedly, the women on Shipping Wars were also expected to dress in approved outfits that included tight-fitting clothes, low-cut tops, and shorts. Obviously, these aren't exactly practical outfits for anyone who owns a shipping firm, so it seems clear to me that the producers wanted the women to dress like this mainly for the ratings. And just like you would expect, the women on the show, like Jennifer Brennan, gained a lot of male fans. And I honestly wouldn't be shocked if this was one of the reasons Shipping Wars enjoyed a massive following for years. That being said, this whole thing wasn't really without its problems either. What happened to Jennifer was seriously unexpected. Jennifer was known under the nickname the Cowgirl. She appeared on all 8 seasons of the show and was one of the few women who operated a shipping business on their own. That may sound impressive, but apparently Jennifer paid the price for being on the show. She revealed that she'd been cyberbullied, but there's more. She said that her personal details had also been posted on Facebook, which is just terrifying. And it honestly explains why some people decided to leave the show after a while. After the show ended, the most bizarre thing happened. Most of the companies featured on Shipping Wars went out of business. I have to admit that this is really strange. Was A&E funding these shipping businesses? My opinion is that most of the companies were propped by the show. They might have appeared successful when the cameras were rolling, but in reality, they did not generate enough money away from the show. But it gets even more interesting. While the show seemed to be making money, not everyone involved left with good memories. One of the show's producers, Jocelyn Shute, filed a lawsuit against the production company, Megalomedia Inc. This was apparently because she hadn't been paid for working overtime, which is obviously terrible, but not entirely unexpected. I mean, we all know that a lot of reality TV shows end up getting sued for reasons similar to this. Even with the show ending in 2015 after all the controversies, it still made a comeback in 2021. The reality series came back with an all-new cast, but as you can imagine, it was hard for the show to recapture the magic of the original series. I think the new cast in the new season just didn't live up to people's expectations, which is a shame. But you may be wondering, what happened to the original cast? Now that they're no longer on the show, what are they up to? Well, it turns out that stars like Mark Springer, Christopher Hanna, Robbie Welsh, Walsh and Dusty Davy are all still involved in the shipping business, while Jennifer Brennan seems to be occupied with her own business and shipping ventures, as well as being a supermom to her kids. What I find fascinating is that most of the cast members found a way to stay in the shipping industry, which is pretty cool. Weirdly enough, there was also an attempt to remake the show for the UK market, but it failed miserably. Shipping Wars UK first aired in January 2014, but it only stayed on for 2 seasons. Despite having some famous people in the cast, the show didn't become as successful as the US version, so to no one's surprise, it was soon cancelled. Anyway, what do you guys think about all this? Have you watched the latest season of Shipping Wars? Do you miss the original show? Which controversy the show dealt with shocked you the most?